Hours after a strike on a Gazan hospital that claimed hundreds of lives, it remained unclear who was responsible for the bloodiest single incident since the Israel-Hamas conflict began, with officials on the two sides trading blame. Israel's military spokesman Daniel Hagari said its forces analyzed its systems and found that rockets fired by, quote, terrorists in Gaza were to blame.
Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza.
But the Palestinian envoy to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, denied that story.
It is a lie, and the Israeli spokesperson of the army, about a week ago, made a statement in which he said, evacuate the hospitals are target.
Mansour urged U.S. President Joe Biden to help stop the carnage against the Palestinian people. In a statement on social media, Biden said he was outraged by the hospital strike, adding that he had directed his national security team to find out exactly what had happened. According to the White House, Biden will also be asking some tough questions of Israel's prime minister during a planned trip to the country on Wednesday. But Biden's diplomatic mission has now been upended by the hospital blast. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas cancelled a meeting with the U.S. president due to take place in Jordan after Biden's Israel visit. At an urgent meeting with local officials, Abbas called the blast an ugly massacre that cannot be tolerated or allowed to pass without accountability. The deadly hospital strike comes as a humanitarian crisis grows in Gaza, with Israel cutting off power, water, food, fuel and medicine supplies into the enclave, intensifying an existing blockade there.
This is totally unacceptable.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, demanded accountability for the hospital blast. He also noted that several were killed after a UN school was struck in the al-Maghazi refugee camp on the same day.
Violence and killing must stop at once. All states with influence must do everything in their power to bring an end to this horrendous situation. Civilians must be protected and humanitarian aid must be allowed in to reach those in need as a matter of urgency. Those found responsible must be held to account.
The hospital strike also set off a wave of protests around the Middle East. That included Palestinians clashing with Abbas's security forces as anger at the situation in Gaza boiled over to the West Bank. In Hebron, protesters marched carrying Hamas's flags, declaring the southern city for the militant group that runs the Gaza Strip.